Welcome to the greatest podcast in sports betting entertainment. My name is Tanner Kern, certified G, bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. In this right here, this is G Money Grant Mitchell. We are here breaking down everything you need to know about the potentially expanded college football playoff, and you can't teach that. Bada boom, man of the people in the room, G Money Grant Mitchell. How you doing?
I'm doing really good, Tanner. Got some exciting personal news, which didn't actually share with you. Just signed for a townhouse over the weekend, so that's gonna be pretty cool. Moving in there in 3 weeks or so. A lot earlier than expected. So I got to negotiate getting out of my current lease in my apartment. Maybe have to sublet it to cover some of the costs, but we'll figure it out. I'm just super excited. The place is awesome, and it's really not far away from here, so that'll make moving less of a hassle. But yeah, I'm pretty pumped.
That's nice. Living in the DMV.
Yeah, I'll be about 15 minutes south of DC.
That's cool. Congratulations, Grant.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's going to be interesting trying to get it filled out because my current apartment's about, I think 900, maybe 1,000 square feet or so. My girlfriend's is 600 square feet and the townhouse is 2,600. So I have no idea how we're going to fill it up with all that stuff.
You must be smacking the bets.
Well, if the people have been longtime subscribers here, hopefully they are too.
Get ready for March Madness, people. It's coming. We're going to be smacking bets during March Madness. The thing about like college basketball and all these other sports too, you really get into them as we get down the stretch. Now with football ending, I've been really into college basketball for the past, 3 days. And I'm like loving it. It's awesome. So sports are awesome. Sports feed families. Grant smack bets. Sports have paid for the townhome.
You know what's funny too? Sports are so cyclical. Like during the NFL season, all I can think about is the NFL. And then the moment the Super Bowl ends, I am so all in on the NBA. But then we go to All-Star break. So it's like, now I got to get everything ready for March Madness, and college baseball is going to again. And the NBA is going to be back on Wednesday, and I'll be back into that. And then as soon as spring training ends, it's like the baseball is going to be here. It's like, as sports fans, we're just fan of sports in general. Like, you like baseball the most, I think. I like probably basketball the most, but we love sports. So anytime there's something new, it's like we're the squirrel from Ice Age chasing the acorn. You know what I mean? We're just all in, going everywhere the sports world goes.
Yeah, for me, it's like football, and now with the college football playoff, that cycle extends longer than it has in years past. Then NBA, I was really starting to feel the NBA a little bit. I was really enjoying it. Not really, I wouldn't say enjoying. I like watching the Celtics. The rest of the league is trash, but I liked watching the Celtics. Then we go to All-Star break. Now I can't watch the Celtics. So I've been watching more college basketball. And I think overall, just from like a betting perspective and that big game atmosphere, college basketball is more fun than the NBA. I know you don't love college right now. You get to it more in March, but it's just a better overall atmosphere, much sloppier product. Then I go baseball season. And for anybody that says college baseball is king, who bets on MLB when you can just do college baseball, you're crazy. You are insane, out of your mind. Like right now, maybe if you need that fix to bet baseball, I just don't see the love and allure with college baseball. Do you?
There was a game yesterday. I'm trying to remember who it was. It might have been the Nebraska game. I forget. They were playing in Arizona. It was hot. Both teams had played 4 days in a row. Like, that was the ultimate over day, and they scored 4 runs.
So that dude got hit in the face. I don't know if you saw that clip. The pitcher for Nebraska, he took a 106-mile-an-hour comebacker off the lip.
I didn't see that.
His face was like busted open. But college baseball, it's good, I guess. I don't know. I don't really watch a lot of college baseball, but when I got to go on like the team's Twitter pages to find the scores, like I don't want to do that. I'm sorry. Like they have the lines. They don't have live lines a lot of the time. You can't see the score on the sports book. It's just annoying. Like, I don't want to deal with that. If I'm going on Western Kentucky Mount Union's Twitter page to find what they're up, and they only post updates every 5 innings because their social media intern doesn't understand that people are betting on the game, we got a problem.
Yeah, I had the same thing yesterday. I think it was the Cal State Fullerton game thing. They're playing Stanford, and I was looking for the score in the sports, and it wasn't there. I was like, what do I do? And so, just like you, I went to Stanford's Twitter page, and I found out they made a huge comeback for the second day in a row. But it was annoying. It was a tedious process. It ended up taking some more time, whereas I'm used to one click and I see the score.
And that's big baseball too. Like ESPN does a terrible job keeping up with college baseball scores. They just know, if we can't get the scores, it's really hard to bet. And honestly, a lot of these books don't offer lines on college baseball regular. Like DraftKings, I know, is a big college baseball book. I'm not sure about FanDuel, but sometimes it's really hard to find lines on games.
I think just the lack of lines overall in college sports, college football, the biggest, obviously, but I think it probably has to do with states having the restrictions on if you can bet on college sports at all. And then if you can you bet on in-state schools? So I would just guess sportsbooks put less time and attention into it because it's not as available as all the professional sports.
Yeah, but not college basketball. That's the one that they pay attention to. Anyways, Grant, tell the people why they need to check out WSN.com.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys are into sports or sports betting in any shape or fashion, then you got to go to WSN.com, the World Sports Network. So excited, can't even talk right. Myself, Tanner, a whole bunch of experts. We are over there talking about game previews. We're sharing our favorite betting picks, looking at futures odds. And most importantly, we got some promo codes. So if you want to earn some extra opportunities, some bonus bets, deposit matches, bet insurance, all that great stuff, you can find it over there at WSN.com.
WSN is the king of sports betting content. So make sure you guys check it out. Also check us out on socials and then follow the show page, subscribe. It means a lot to us. It keeps the show going. You love the show. You subscribe to the show. That's how it works. Big focus today is going to be on the expanded college football playoff. We're going to talk about hypotheticals, which everybody in the college football playoff world absolutely loves. But before we do that, Grant, I don't know if you've been seeing this hockey going down. Canada, US, they booed our national anthem the other night. We took care of business. Then we lost to Sweden in a meaningless game. But they booed our national anthem. You don't do that shit.
Oh, I mean, I think that was a political gesture. I don't think that had anything to do with hockey. I think it had to do with the tariffs.
I wonder if the United States will boo the Canadian national anthem on Thursday night. I feel like we got more class than that.
Do we? I think Canadians might not be classier, but Canada's supposed to be like the nicest country in the world. I don't think we're classy. I think we would boo their national anthem.
So one of the coolest sporting event experiences that I've ever had, Bruins Leafs last year in the playoffs. People were going nuts. There were Canadians in our section. It was like F Canada, F the US, like they score, we score. Like we were genuine. It got hostile. Like I felt like I was in kind of like third world country basketball vibes, you know, like where everything's going, you know, the smoke's going. Like that was the closest I could sense to what that was like. And it was wild. And there was hate between the US and Canada. And that was just Bruins Leafs. We got Canadians on the damn Bruins and we're booing their national anthem. With that being said, I think this takes it to the next level. Tickets opened up for Thursday night's championship game around $200. They're now up to $1,200 just to get in the building. Based on what we saw, you know, US and Canada when they played in Canada, this game is going to be epic. And it's like the perfect formula for an all-star game.
Okay, so I got a little story time here. Kind of going off your international rivalry here. So I don't even really know if I'm supposed to be telling this story. We'll find out one day. But my girlfriend's dad, he's Irish, and he went to the University of Georgia. After he graduated, he went out to Ireland. And while he was there, he was working, he was bartending, make some extra money. And so he, you know, working at a bar, you make friends who go to the bar. So one night they all decide to go out and they go to a little karaoke spot, something like that. And of course, he's Irish, but he's an American. He was born in America. He's out there in Ireland. So he has the accent, the American accent and everything, Southern accent at that. And he and his buddies go into a bar, and there's a guy, I don't know if he had a shirt or a tattoo or something, but there was the sickle and iron of the Soviet Union. And you got to keep in mind that generation right after college, Cold War still in the air. And so he and his buddies are drinking, and one of them eventually says, "I dare you to get on stage and sing Born in the USA" with this Soviet Union, this guy from the Soviet Union right there. And they go through the album, whatever, blah, blah, blah. They all decide to go up on stage together, and they all sing Born in the USA. And apparently this guy who's from Russia picked up a big bottle of alcohol, vodka, whatever, and threw it at him as hard as he could while they were on stage performing, and a brawl broke out. And anyway, that's just what I imagine when I think about what this USA-Canada rematch is going to look like.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I can't wait for it. Not that I'm the biggest puck guy in the world, but it's been fun to watch. It's national pride, so we're going to have to bet on the United States of America, even though I'm not feeling very good coming to that game. I feel like when you beat a team in your own country, you get beat in your own country, you're going to try to do the same thing. It would like 10x more. So should be interesting. Anyways, Grant, NBA All-Star Game sucks. This was the NHL solution to their All-Star Game. If you were Adam Silver, we'll keep it, we'll keep this on the DL or the down low quick because it already happened. But if you were Adam Silver, how you fixing the All-Star Game?
So I want to say, I think there are some pretty clear differences between NBA and NHL. I don't think this is a matter of look at what the NHL did. We've got to go USA versus the world. First of all, hockey's just anything with physicality is a little more primitive and your emotions are going to get higher. And not saying that basketball isn't physical, obviously, but you're not going out there trying to literally kill each other. I was at a party one time. It was like 4 a.m. and a guy came up to me and he said, "Yo, you want to go fight?" And we hadn't even talked one time before that. The point I'm making here is what?
Did you fight him?
No, I didn't.
Challenge your manhood, Grant.
No, I was like, I'm going to bed. I told him, I was like, nah, man. He's like, oh, that's okay. And then he walked around and was looking for someone else. My point is, people who enjoy those type of things, that's just what they want to do. In the NBA All-Star Game, it's a little bit different. Personally, I think this was better than we've seen in years past. Not the format or anything like that, just the level of effort and intensity was there. And I know Draymond was talking about how the rising stars didn't deserve to be on the same court as the NBA All-Stars. And while he's right at its face value, it's Draymond Green's generation that is to blame for the All-Star Game falling apart. So I don't really think he has any room to criticize. And the fact is, because those young guys were trying, it forced the older guys to try more than I've seen in years past. I think the best way to do it is still East versus West, and then the winner gets home court advantage in the NBA Finals. That's how the MLB does it. It incentivizes everybody to play because here's the reality. If the NBA is going to put up $1 million per player on the winning team, which would be a lot because there's 12 guys, so that's $12 million prize pool. But if they do that, these guys are making $300 million. No, I'm not saying they disregard the value of money, but if I were to tell you, hey, I'm going to give you 1/300th of your paycheck as a bonus, do you even really care all that much? Probably not. They tried the Elam ending. They tried donating money to charity. They tried prize pools. They tried captains, all this stuff. Make it simple so that it actually impacts them. Every player there is taking it easy because they want to win a championship. If you say, we're going to give you home court, that's the biggest advantage you can get to winning a championship. And that's how you bring the All-Star Game back.
I agree. I still think you're going to get a little bit of a lack of effort. Like in the end of the day, not that home court isn't something big to play for, but I think just this generation in general of basketball players, we're not going to get the Kobe, Jordan All-Star Game era. It's just not going to happen no matter what carrot you dangle in front of them. $1 million sure isn't going to do it. I mean, $1 million, it's a great paycheck for the night, but they're all on a lot of them are Supermax deals. So it's hard to motivate them with money. I still think East versus West is the way to go. I think, like, as much as I love Mac McClung, we need NBA guys in the dunk contest. Like, I love, he's scrappy. The only reason we know about him is because of the dunk contest, but we need legitimate NBA players in the dunk contest because that makes me want to watch it more. So it's hard. It's a hard situation.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if Mac McClung, and once he's gone, I don't know how you would replace him, but I wouldn't mind if there was like a dunk specialist who barely played or was in the G League or something like that. In this case, it would be Mac McClung, but I want to see him going against Ja Morant, Zach LaVine, and Aaron Gordon. You know what I mean? I want there to be these stars, these NBA stars, these guys who are averaging 20 points per night, these guys who are averaging 30 minutes per night, and they can take on whoever this one guy is. Kind of the same way the All-Stars took on the rising stars. I don't mind the concept of that, but the point is we need the best players in the NBA, and we need them playing at their best. Like you said, gone are the days of Kobe and Jordan in the All-Star Game, but I also don't blame the players entirely for that. I blame the media for a large part of that, because the media's discussions of legacies, you turn on you turn on First Take or whatever, Undisputed. I know that show's over, but it's always who's better, LeBron or Jordan. Is KD in the top 10 all time? And it all comes down to how many championships have they won. Michael Jordan's the GOAT because he was 6-0 and he never lost. And for a while it was Joe Montana's better than Tom Brady because he was 4-0 and he never lost. So if you're telling these players, I don't care what you do, you have to go win a championship, I don't blame them for not playing the All-Star game hard. They're going to rest. They're going to try to refuel their bodies and put themselves on a path to win a championship. I don't agree with it, but if you're telling me that's how I'm going to be judged, then I can understand it.
Maybe extend time off. I think NHL's given them a pretty big rest period because of this tournament. So I don't know if you extend the time off with the NBA and not make them play this coming week, give them an extra week. I don't know if that makes a difference. It probably doesn't. It's a really hard situation to fix. But I think the more we do this, like, okay, team rising stars, team Shaq, all this stuff, it just makes it so much more arcade like, and that's not the prestige of the All-Star game.
Yeah, I agree.
So Draymond, Grant, this was what I wanted to talk about. Draymond comes out and says, we're winning a championship. And then, Steph's on the broadcast or after the post game. He's like, I got Draymond on the telecast last night saying that, we got to win a championship. We're going to win a championship. So I got a lot to play for now. What are your thoughts on the Golden State Warriors championship outlook?
They don't exist. The hopes don't exist. Steph has been better since Jimmy Butler got there. It's only been 4 games. They went 3-1. Steph, he had by his standards, of course, but he had a really bad season. He was shooting below 40%. He's the greatest shooter ever. We don't see that. He was averaging 22 points per game. Again, over the last couple of weeks, it started to tick up. I doubt that it was he was saving his energy and now he's turning it on. I think he just hit a hot streak. And Steph can still go score 50 points. He can still do it. But he's getting old. LeBron's age has warped our perception of everybody else's age. LeBron's 40. Steph is 36. Kevin Durant is 36. These guys, if LeBron was out of the league, we would be looking at them saying it's remarkable that they are still playing at this level. Kobe Bryant, his best basketball was behind him by the time he was 30 years old. Michael Jordan was out of the league for 2.5 years, resting, and then he retired again, and then obviously came back for the play for the Wizards. The point is, guys don't last this long playing at an elite level, so they can still go out there and get it done, but Steph isn't going to carry you to a championship even like he did a few years ago. Draymond saying we're going to win a championship, Draymond is not the person who determines if you're winning a championship or not. Even at his absolute best, which is when he was a triple-double threat, when he was a Hall of Fame defender, one of the best defenders ever, even then, Draymond was not the one determining if Golden State won a championship or not. He is writing checks that Steph Curry has to cash, and the biggest move they're counting on is Jimmy Butler, who went scorched earth in Miami just to force his way out of there, has only been there for 4 games, and doesn't really do what Golden State wants to do. I think they're going to make the playoffs. Maybe they win a series, but they are not winning the championship.
No, I don't think so either. But that was the comments from Draymond. He started by saying, if you guys haven't seen the clip, basically, it didn't circulate as much as I thought it would have. I think people must have thought he was joking. But at first he goes, I think we're going to win the championship, and then he doubles down and said we will win the championship. Probably not the right move. But again, if he says if he says it and it happens, he looks great. If he says and it doesn't happen, like nobody expects it to happen either. Just a quick thought, Grant. Too many teams make the playoffs in the NBA. Too many teams.
Make the playoffs or make the postseason?
Postseason. Too many teams make the postseason.
So you don't like the play-in?
I like the play-in. I think it's great, but this leads into our college football playoff discussion. Like, how many teams, or we get like 20 of the 30 teams get a chance to play playoff basketball or postseason basketball?
I mean, I would be interested because I like the play-in too. So if we're going to keep the play-in, I don't see how you make that work. Because if we go from 10 on each side to 8 on each side, then that's only 6 teams making the bracket. Now we're in a 12-team bracket, and we've got to give 2 teams buys. The NBA's never done a buy system like that before, and I don't think I would want to introduce it.
No, it's just a quick thought. I think 20 out of 30. Because when I'm looking at the playoff standings, I want to see where Golden State was. It's a lot. It just feels like a lot. I like the play-in. I think it's one of the good things that the league has done. Just a lot of teams. It gives people a chance to care about basketball earlier on, though, too. I think it gives more fans the chance to care about basketball if your team's in it. Like Golden State. Right now, they're 10th. You got Phoenix at 11. Phoenix probably not going to get in over Golden State. But with that being said, Golden State fans can care for a team that may or may not make the actual playoffs and may win a series.
I don't disagree that, 2/3 of the league making the postseason is a lot, but at the same time, look at the conference standings. You're in the West, you've got the top six. That's cool. The play-in teams right now are the Timberwolves, the Mavericks, the Kings, and the Warriors. Those are all decent teams, if not good teams. And then out of the play-in is the Suns, who have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, and the Spurs with Victor Wembanyama. Those teams wouldn't even be in as we're recording this. And on the East, the Sixers with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey and Paul George, they wouldn't even be in the play-in. So it is a lot of teams, but there's also a lot of talent in the NBA. So there's a lot. You have to account for a lot of teams being good in a given year, and this year's a good example of that.
You also got a lot of stars that seem just don't give a shit. Like Joel Embiid never plays.
Well, I mean, he's more of a rarity in that case, but yes, you are right.
Yeah. I don't know how the Suns have been so bad for so long.
What's really interesting about them too? If you look at a lot of their advanced numbers, they're still not bad.
They just can't win. Good teams find ways to win, and it's not the right mix of talent. That's what happens. You need the right mix. But anyways, Grant, we got college football playoff expansion here. Why don't you break down what the Big Ten and the SEC are proposing?
Well, so you actually turned me on to this news. I hadn't seen it, but went ahead and looked, and essentially the new proposal for the structure of the college football playoff is going to be either 14 or 16 teams. That part is still up for discussion, but either way, in this new format, we would be expanding because we currently have 12 teams. You would get 4 automatic bids to the SEC, 4 automatic bids to the Big Ten, 2 to the Big 12, 2 to the ACC, 1 to a group of 5 team, and then depending if it's 14 or 16 teams, either 1 or 3 at-large bids. So where I settled on this is it's retroactive in the sense that we know what the standings were, so this format makes sense. If we go into next year and there is no Indiana type team in the Big Ten, and let's say Michigan, they improve, but they win 8 games. They're not ready to be a playoff team. Well, that would leave at the top of the Big Ten, Penn State, Ohio State, and Oregon. Do they need to have a 4th team there if Michigan's the next best team at 8-4? And down in the SEC, what if they have 5 teams? Or what if they have 3 teams? What if Kalen DeBoer doesn't figure it out? What if we have Georgia, Ole Miss, and let's say Nico becomes the best football or quarterback in college football? So in the SEC, we've got Georgia, Tennessee, and Ole Miss, and the rest of the teams aren't quite there. The 4-4 split makes sense to us in our head, but it's very based on what we know. And the simple fact is we can't predict what is going to come. And then with the ACC, Clemson, let's just pencil them in. SMU, sure, they were there last year. What if Miami's really good? What if Miami's undefeated? What if you've got 3 teams in the ACC with 1 loss at most? It becomes tough to knit those picks, to pick the knits.
Well, I'll tell you what, just a side note, Kalen DeBoer better have the Tide in the postseason next year, or he better start packing his bags in Tuscaloosa if he does not have the Tide in the postseason.
Do they actually fire him if they don't make the playoff?
I don't know if they fire him, but there needs to be a wicked amount of improvement out of that team. Like, they need to be consistent all season long. It's hard to say they're going to make the playoffs, but when you don't make the playoffs 2 years in a row in an expanded playoffs, you're probably not. The seats gets warm going into year 3 for sure. I would expect them to do everything they can the playoffs are the goal. I'm not saying national championship, but you need to be in the playoffs if you're DeBoer.
Yeah, I think they wouldn't if it's still a solid season, like if they're 9-3 and they miss it, then I think they would keep him around. But at that point, it's like you not only do you have to make the playoff the next year, you have to win a game.
Yeah. So overall, Alabama's got to get in. So I would bump them up to that 4th team most likely, because their chances are they have to be. But if I'm looking at the outlook of college football and in the NIL era, I think there are bigger things that we need to address with the college football playoff and with NIL before we even talk about college football playoff expansion. I think first off, we need to get the seating right. If we're going to do 12 teams, we need better seating, because you can't tell me Boise State deserved a bye. You can't tell me, Arizona State deserved a bye. Yeah, under the format, they did deserve a bye, but were they most deserving of a bye? Hell no. So I think that's the biggest thing. Then you got to get this like salary cap taken care of with NIL, because truthfully, if you don't, I think this college football playoff expansion makes sense. Better teams have more money. The SEC and the Big Ten are going to have the most money. And I think overall the Big Ten is going to have more money than the South. So more teams, more money, more kids going to those schools, chances are they're going to have 4 of the best teams in each conference. So I do agree with that. I think if you could make a salary cap even across the board, it gives the ACC and the Big 12 a little bit more of a fighting chance. But if I know I'm a kid getting recruited, I can get more money to go to the North or the South. And on top of that, I have a better chance of making the college football playoff. The better kids are going to those schools.
A problem that college football is also going to run into, and I think you saw it with Indiana last year. That was really the first indication of what's to come. Is there's so many teams in each conference now that there's not going to be parity as far as scheduling goes within the conference. One SEC schedule, Mizzou didn't really do anything last year, but if you look at Mizzou's schedule, if they played Florida's schedule, they might have only won 9 games or 4 games, and I think they won 9. So here's an example. So Illinois, who's in the Big Ten next year, I'm going to read you their schedule. Western Illinois, Duke, Western Michigan, Indiana, USC, Purdue, Ohio State's the tough game, but it's at home, Washington, Rutgers, Maryland, Wisconsin, Northwestern. You don't play Oregon. You don't play Penn State. You don't play Michigan. You don't play Indiana, or you do play Indiana. Actually, I take that back. But you missed 3 of the top 4. And then let's look at Ohio State's schedule. They start the year with Texas. They're at Washington, which isn't easy. They play that road game at Illinois. They play Penn State, and they finish the year at Michigan. Ohio State's a better team than Illinois, but their schedule is significantly harder. So if we're talking about, the Big Ten is guaranteed 4 bids here, and everybody's got a shot at it, but Illinois is starting further ahead just because their schedule is much easier. It's not like being in the AFC South, where your divisional schedule is basically the same as the AFC North and the NFC East and the NFC West. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Well, if I'm looking at 4 teams, I'd probably say the 2 teams, schedule aside, the conference needs to come up with a better in-conference scheduling system. But if I'm in the SEC or Big Ten championship, I'm in. If I'm a top seed or not. And then the winner of that, the winner of those 2 conferences should get a bye. Other than that, I can't say the winner of the ACC or the Big 12 should get a bye under the current format of college football.
Yeah, so if we went to 14, I believe it would still be, if we went to 14, it would be 2 teams get a bye. If we go to 16, then nobody gets a bye.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, maybe no buys is the way to go. But I think in that case, for the health and safety of the kids, it needs to be an 11-game season. FCS does an 11-game season with expanded. They have massive expansion for college football playoff, obviously, in the FCS. I think 12. This season's felt long. It was awesome, but they played so many games, like Ohio State, Texas, whatever. Ohio State, Texas. Who'd Ohio State? Why am I Notre Dame? These teams played so many games. It's got to be hard on the kids.
Yeah, so if you play your 12-game regular season, let's assume you get a scrimmage or something, it might be even be against yourself, but we'll call that the equivalent of a preseason game. So we're at 13. Conference championship would be 14. And if you make it to the national championship game, that's another 4. So you're at 18 games, which is longer than an NFL season. That's an NFL season plus the playoffs. And that's why you've got to go to class. That's why you're not making money to afford top of the line recovery and all that stuff.
And then also too, just side note here, we need some NIL contracts because we need to keep kids at the same schools for multiple seasons. We also need kids to play in their damn bowl games too. That's another thing, going off NBA All-Star game, why it sucks. The contract, if a kid is getting paid, I get it in the old days when there was no money involved and they were making money signing autographs on the side, pulling, Reggie Bush and Johnny Manziel's, right? Not Reggie. What did Reggie Bush do?
I don't remember, but it was something like that.
Yeah. All right. So pulling Johnny Manziel. You can't, in those days, I understand it, opting out of the Chipotle Fiesta Bowl or whatever, all these games. But in today's world, I can't make the case when Cam Ward, and I don't know what his decision was to not play the second half in his bowl game or all these other stars. But if you are making $1 million a year to $6 million a year, whatever these guys are making, and you opt out of your bowl game, that is disgraceful and disrespectful to your school, because it's more money than you're going to make playing in the NFL next year for your salary.
Yeah, a lot of people love to crap on Dion, Coach Prime, but he had so much of my respect because he got, aside from people who had already decided on where they were transferring to, everybody that was on his team played in that bowl game. That included Shedeur Sanders, that included Travis Hunter, two guys who have a chance to be the first pick in the draft. I really respected that out of him.
Yeah, and you got the insurance policies on the kids now. You also, the kids make money in college. And how many, again, serious injuries do happen. I'm not saying they don't. But how many injuries do we see in these games that, like, on the scale of all these first round picks, how many have played in a bowl game and got severely injured to a point where they were no longer a first round draft pick? Not many, right?
I'm struggling to think of a guy who was, like you said, was going to be a first round pick, got injured in a bowl game and fell out of it. I can't remember one.
I can't. And if you're getting paid by your college to play, that's like opting out of a playoff game if you know you're hitting free agency, or opting out of week 17 if you know you're hitting free agency to go play for another NFL team. That's crazy. Like, so there's a lot of things that need to get fixed in college football before I think, even talk about college football playoff expansion. With that being said, though, I can count on 4 teams being good in the Big Ten and 4 teams being good in the SEC every single year. I also think this format makes it so there is no doubt, if you can fix the seeding, there's no doubt the team that wins this is the best team in America, because you're getting the one group of 5, a group of 5's not taking a spot away from a team that earned it. And then you're also getting the at-large bid. So you can get a Notre Dame in, you can get another independent in if you need to. And then you might get 5 Big Tens or 5 SECs, or those at-large bids could go the ACC and the Big 12 too. So there's a lot of room with more teams, but you need to cut the season down.
They could be G5 teams too. Like, if UNLV had gone undefeated, which couldn't happen because they played Boise in the conference championship, but if Tulane or Army were undefeated and Boise was undefeated, they could have been in there too, because people were gonna throw a fit. Like, if Army went undefeated and they didn't get in, people were gonna throw a fit, say, how's that fair? What was the point of us even playing? Like the Florida State situation a couple of years ago.
Well, they would have for them to go undefeated, at least they would have had to beat Notre Dame. And then that bumps Notre Dame out as a 2-loss Notre Dame team. So I think you need, like, it'd be cool to see Army play Penn State in the first round or something, or Army play Notre Dame in the first round. Yeah, I don't know who it is, but and then not have people complain about that game, because the landscape of the college football playoff changed a lot as we progress forward. But when we watched the first round blowout, it was like, what is that? The seeding's wrong. The teams are mismatched, and we just wanted to see better games earlier on. Expanded playoffs is going to get you that formula. And hell, let's have a play-in. Let's do 14 teams, and let's let Army and Navy and all these other group of 5 teams battle out. Let's get 6 group of 5 teams, 8 group of 5 teams. Let them play a few games and see who deserves their way into the bracket. I think that would make it fun too, because those would be competitive games.
Yeah, now that you say that, it's a lot of leagues do that. The NBA has the play-in tournament. The March Madness has the first 4. Soccer leagues, like the lower levels. So the way it works, it can be 3 teams promoted, 3 teams relegated. But like in England's second league, the team that wins the second league, they get promoted. There are 2 other spots up for grabs. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They go into a mini bracket. And the 2 teams that get there, they're able to advance. They get promoted as well. So this whole bracket style play-in type deal, we see that a lot. So I don't think that's a bad idea at all. Now, the problem is it is another game for these guys, but I guess that's kind of the burden of the beast. If you lose 2 games as an at-large bid, or if you lose 4 games as an SEC team, then you deserve to be put behind the 8 ball. You don't deserve the same luxuries as a team that was undefeated. So, maybe it's a 14 team bracket, and but 18 teams are still alive, and 4 of those are fighting. We get South Carolina versus Army, and the winner of that gets to make it into the bracket.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool dream scenarios we can put together, but I think giving 4 to the Big Ten and 4 to the SEC ultimately is going to be the way to go, because as NIL gets bigger, the MAC, the Sun Belt, the Conference USA, these teams are going to be just drained. It's going to be kids that should be playing 1AA football, and then kids playing 1AA should be playing Division II football as we progress forward. And you're also going to get these just powerhouse teams. Like, is Ohio State ever going to be bad again? No, because they can put together a really good roster every year. Like Georgia, I don't know if they have the same money as the North. Like that's what they were saying. The SEC schools don't have the same money as the Big Ten, and that's going to make the Big Ten more dominant in this era. But when you're looking at these schools, they are going to become powerhouses. The ACC is going to slowly fade if they cannot fund with the Big Ten and the SEC. Same thing with the Big 12. You're going to get the teams every year like Arizona State that have a really good season come out of nowhere, but that's not going to be the standard of who wins national championships.
I agree with you. The G5 is going to fade, but the depth of the power conferences is going to grow. The ACC is probably the odd man out at this point, but Indiana was a good example of it last year. And I was talking about Illinois. I think they could be good this year. And you're not going to tell me Florida isn't paying players well down there. And then maybe can Michigan State has money. Can Michigan State get something going? Can they get on the right trajectory? So yes, you're not going to get a bunch of Boise States, but you might have 7 SEC schools you could argue deserve one of 4 spots.
Which is great. I think that's, I think the Big Ten and the SEC, 4 teams is enough to figure out who makes it or not. With that being said, you still have 3 at-larges if you really feel that a 5th should be in. I don't know if we should get more than 5 per conference, but the SEC and the Big Ten will be king moving forward. That's just the direction we're going in with NIL. I think the kids deserve to be paid 100% because nobody's buying advertising dollars to watch the Michigan band play their fight song. That's just the way it is, whether you like it or not. No, fine arts don't pay the bills. Football pays the bills. However, when you're looking at just the landscape of college football, I do think NIL has destroyed college football to a point where it's a business now, and it's always been a business. I think I wish they could have found a way to pay the kids enough money to satisfy them for what they actually bring in week after week with a salary cap, and not destroy just what we loved about college football.
It would be like if when the U.S. legalized sports betting, they legalized it in every state. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they did legalize it, but the states had to legalize. I'm saying, let's just assume it was legal in every state and there were no guidelines. There was a minimum age of 21, and aside from that, you could do whatever you want.
Yeah, like that would have been best. So find the salary cap, pay the kids, and get a fair salary cap. Do it like the NFL does it, because these quarterbacks. If I'm a quarterback here, I'm making $6 million. This place is going to pay me $8 million. Then someone's going to pay me $10 million. In the NFL, I guess it kind of is like that, but there's a salary cap. There's a limit to what the team can pay you and afford to put a roster on the field. I wish they got more of that done earlier and beat the kids to the punch as far as NIL, because if they would have, I think there could have been more parity in college football overall. Because if you're Clemson, you're going to spend the same amount as Ohio State. There's not going to be a dollar amount you're not going to meet if you're a powerhouse school in the ACC. Some of these smaller schools are going to have trouble doing that. But if you're Clemson, if you're probably SMU now with the donors that you have at SMU, you're going to pay the salary cap to the kids. So there would just create a lot more parity, which is what we would want more than just the SEC and the Big Ten dominance. I'm cool with it. They deserve the spots, but I wish there was a better format and play earlier that wouldn't have destroyed college football.
And I don't want to sound ungrateful, because I really like the 12-team playoff. The first round was kind of boring, a lot of blowouts, but it was a step in the right direction, in my opinion. There are a lot of things that could be improved, a lot of things. The seeding is the biggest thing for me. No way in hell we should have Oregon and Ohio State playing in the second game. But it's something. It was a needed change. The 4-team playoff was done. There were arguments every single year about this team got snubbed. Yeah, a team like Florida State went undefeated. They didn't even get the chance to play for a title. It was only 3 games. A lot of stars weren't out there. There was a chance to make more money by expanding. It just made sense all around to expand it. Now we need to continue working to improve upon it.
Yeah. Anyways, Grant, anything else? We're wrapping up here on a Tuesday morning.
we can wrap it up. Mock draft stuff towards the end of the week on Friday.
Yeah. Talk some mock draft on Friday. Talk some Aaron Rodgers, next team odds. Have some fun with it. But for today, we talk college football playoffs. So let us know what you guys think in the comments and subscribe to the show. And Grant, take us out of Ride the Line.
That's going to do it for this episode of Ride the Line. Tanner and I appreciate you all being here. Before you click off, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button as well. We will catch you all in the next episode of Ride the Line.